Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2015 NFL Mock Draft Simulation. I am an analyst on this broadcast, James Carter TV, and I am joined by Louie Tee. You may be familiar with him over on the Louie Tee channel. Introduce yourself, Lou.
How is everyone doing? I am Louie Tee of the Louie Tee Network here with my man James Carter doing this mock draft simulation.
Yep, so we had 5 GMs control 32 NFL teams. They spat out a mock draft, and this is what we're going to have here to discuss for you. So, about every minute and a half to 2 minutes, you will hear the NFL draft sound. The pick will be announced by my friend Lou, and we will discuss the pick, and we'll go into the next pick just like the normal NFL draft would do. And with that said, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are on the clock. Lou, what do you see them doing here?
I think it's been a formality for about 2 or 3 months now. I expect the Buccaneers, despite Lovie Smith trying to stir the pot a little bit down the stretch, talking about how the pick is not done yet and how you don't make a decision until you have to, the Buccaneers are taking Jameis Winston.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you here. And for me, I think he's the best quarterback prospect since Andrew Luck. I mean, there are the off-field issues there. There are the interceptions that you don't necessarily like, but he's the most pro-ready. He has everything you want. The tools are there, the accuracy, the arm strength, the leadership, the clutch gene. I mean, he has the it factor. If he gets it, he could break the NFL. But there are still the off-field concerns you have to worry about, and I know recently he said with the whole crab leg incident that he had a hookup and it went wrong, and I actually believe that. But yet you just can't let that stuff happen. You can't be in the headlines as a quarterback of an NFL team, and hopefully he doesn't have to worry about that too much longer.
I agree. I love the infrastructure that is in Tampa Bay. One of his mentors at Florida State was Derek Brooks, who went to the university or went to Florida State as well. And so he was mentoring him while he was there. You know, he was a great Hall of Fame linebacker for the Buccaneers. So I feel like there's an infrastructure in place for him set up to succeed in Tampa Bay. I love the receivers and the targets that he has out there. It's going to be a good pick if he does, in fact, end up in Tampa Bay.
And here comes the commissioner to announce the first pick.
With the first pick in the 2015 NFL Draft, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers select Jameis Winston, quarterback, Florida State.
Well, no surprise there. We talked about it. Jameis Winston will be the leader of this Tampa Bay Buccaneer franchise, and I think he'll be a good one.
I concur with you. I feel like sky's the limit for this kid. As long as he can keep the off-the-field issues to a minimum, I think his on-the-field prowess is second to none in this draft.
So this is where things get interesting. The number 2 spot held by the Tennessee Titans. This pick has been the topic of trade talks and the speculation throughout the NFL draft process. Everyone seems to believe that quarterback Marcus Mariota of Oregon will go in this spot, but the question is to whom? Lou, who do you think it will be?
This has been the most controversial pick I've ever seen in my entire life. I've seen this pick traded to at least 3 or 4 different teams. Marcus Mariota going here, Marcus Mariota going there. Will the Titans take him? Will the Titans pass on him? I believe, just like you just mentioned, he's going in this spot, and I believe that the Chargers somehow, some way will come up and get him and trade Phillip Rivers, and the Chargers will start over as they embark on their move to Los Angeles. It just makes a lot of sense to me to try and do that, but we will see. I mean, there's been speculation about that trade. There's been talks that the Cleveland Browns would trade 12 and 19. There's been so many different scenarios trying to play itself out. We're finally at the point now where it's about to come to a head.
And I think definitely the team to watch here is the Cleveland Browns. They have the 2 first-round picks. They're not in love with Johnny Manziel. They signed Josh McCown, but they'll be happy to throw him to the river if they can get Marcus Mariota here. The Tennessee Titans might be looking to get some extra picks, so I definitely believe that the Cleveland Browns are a team to watch here and may trade up to the 2nd overall pick, but no matter who trades up here, I believe that they will be getting a franchise quarterback in Marcus Mariota. I think he is an NFL franchise quarterback at this level. But here comes the commissioner to announce the second overall pick.
With the second overall selection in the 2015 NFL Draft, the Tennessee Titans select Marcus Mariota, quarterback, Oregon.
Wow, so the Tennessee Titans stay at number 2 and take Marcus Mariota. You have to think that maybe they'll trade him after selecting this pick, or maybe they just found their guy.
That is very plausible. They throughout this whole process, haven't said a lot. And you really don't know what the thought process is with the Tennessee Titans. Does Ken Whisenhunt really believe that he could be the quarterback of the future for this franchise? Or, like you said, could he just be a bargaining chip for the Titans moving forward in this draft? We will see. But right now, Marcus Mariota is a Tennessee Titan.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's just assume that he stays with the Tennessee Titans here. I wonder what Ken Whisenhunt is going to do. Ken Whisenhunt normally running a prototypical vertical offense in the NFL. Can Marcus Mariota fit in that offense? I think he can eventually, but there's going to be a learning curve for this kid. He's been playing in the Oregon offense for the past 3 years, or 4 years really, and it's going to be a completely different system for him to go in. So I still look for them to trade this pick, but we'll see what they do. We move on to the number 3 overall pick held by the Jacksonville Jaguars. Last year they were at this very spot, and they took quarterback Blake Bortles, who struggled in 2014, but they still are convinced that he is their franchise quarterback. Where do you see them going here?
For the last couple of years, I expected the Jaguars, with Gus Bradley at the helm as their head coach, to try to build this defense up, and they've done that over the last couple of years. But I always expected them to take a Leo, and the Leo is a guy that moves around at the defensive end position, can line up in multiple spots on the defense, a la Von Miller with the Denver Broncos. Coming from Seattle, I thought that would be something that would be important to Gus Bradley. I thought he would have went with Deion Jordan 2 years ago, went with Luke Jokel. I thought last year for sure Khalil Mack at this spot made a lot of sense. They go with the quarterback. You can't blame them for that in Blake Bortles. This year, I think this is the time to get the Leo. I think a guy like Dante Fowler Jr. is exactly what the doctor has ordered for Gus Bradley and that defense. I think that is what the selection.
And here comes the commissioner.
With the number 3 pick in the 2015 NFL Draft, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Dante Fowler Jr., linebacker, Florida.
Well, this could be their Leo. Now, he could play defensive end also in their system. It'll be interesting to see where they put him, but where do you project him, Lou?
I think he's going to play all over, just like he did at Florida. I think he was all over the place, all over the field. He lined up at multiple positions. You didn't know where he was going to be pre-snap. I see the Jaguars employing a lot of the same things with him in this defense. They went out, they got Jared Odrick in the offseason, so they feel good about their defensive line. You throw him in the mix and you move this guy around. I really like this selection for Jacksonville, and I like the direction of this defense.
Yeah, and I really like what the Jaguars did in free agency building their defense, and now Dante Fowler will be a good young piece to add to that defense. I was looking at a possibility of Leonard Williams going here, but they pretty much filled the defensive tackle position in their defense over the offseason. So Dante Fowler, absolutely the pick here. And now there's an interesting conundrum for the 4th pick. The Oakland Raiders have Leonard Williams, who is the consensus best player in the draft, or they could draft a wide receiver, maybe Amari Cooper or Kevin White, in order to give Derek Carr a weapon. What would you do if you were them?
I strongly would consider wide receiver here if you're the Raiders. I know that they just signed Michael Crabtree. They feel good about some of the receivers they have in their camp already, but in this day and age, you gotta have a legit number 1 option. You gotta have, especially for a young quarterback, he needs to have a guy that he can grow with. I think if you're the Raiders, you have to strongly consider doing that here at 4. Leonard Williams is a guy that I think General Manager Reggie McKenzie is absolutely head over heels with. And I tell you what, Leonard Williams came out earlier in the process and said he wants to play for the Raiders. He's already in California right now. And so being in SoCal right now, wanting to play for the Raiders, it just all makes too much sense. I could easily see him.
And here comes the commissioner.
With the 4th pick in the 2015 NFL Draft, the Oakland Raiders select Leonard Williams, defensive lineman, USC.
Well, they didn't take your advice. They took the best player on their board, probably, in Leonard Williams, defensive end tackle, USC. He'll probably play defensive tackle for them. Line up next to Dan Williams, who they signed in free agency of the Arizona Cardinals. I know you wanted them to draft a wide receiver, Lou, but I like this pick. They already have Khalil Mack on that defense, C.O. Moore on that defense, and now you're adding another young guy, DJ Hayden as well on that defense. Adding another young guy to this defense, continuing to build this defense, which was in shambles in 2012, and they didn't even have a pick in order to fix it in 2013. Now you have Leonard Williams on that D-line. You have Khalil Mack, C.O. Moore, DJ Hayden. You can see this defense coming into formation. If these guys can learn and grow together under Jack Del Rio, a defensive-minded coach, this could be a very interesting defense we have on our hands.
Absolutely. And when you're a young team, a franchise in rebuild mode, the best way to go about it is to get the quarterback and fix the defense. And that's what the Raiders have done. They feel like they have their franchise signal caller in place. They feel like now they can build up the defense. In order to win in this league, you got to be able to stop teams from scoring the football. And the Raiders are building their way towards that with a pick like Leonard Williams at number 4.
So we move on to number 5, the Washington Redskins. And this pick has been a little bit of intrigue to me. You have the wide receivers still on the board. They're a consensus top 5, on most people's boards, so that could be a possibility here. Or they could look to draft an outside linebacker. Brian Orakpo left in free agency. They drafted Trent Murphy last year in the second round, but they could still use another pass rusher. I mean, you know what they say about 3-4 defenses, you can never have enough outside linebackers. Lou, I know you have a special relationship with the Washington Redskins. Where do you think they should go here?
This pick is very intriguing because the Redskins could go a number of ways. They could take an outside linebacker, as you alluded to. They could easily take a receiver here. Scott McCoy, new general manager, has an affinity for bigger receivers, but the word in Redskins camp right now is that they are extremely high on Amari Cooper, and it would not shock me in the least if they took Amari Cooper here at number 5. The smart pick probably would be to get an outside linebacker, probably even trade out of this pick if at all possible, but it would not shock me in the least if they took Amari Cooper.
And here comes the commissioner to announce the 5th pick.
With the 5th selection in the 2015 NFL Draft, the Washington Redskins select Vic Beasley, linebacker, Clemson.
Well, short arm, Vic Beasley finds himself going number 5. It looks like it's a good thing he forego the 2014 NFL draft for this draft. Now he's going top 5. He'll be a good pass rusher in this defense. He's a good fit. He slides right in there. He'll get after the quarterback and continue to build this defense. But if you're Washington here, I would have liked to see them do something to help RG3, who definitely needs the help. But we'll.
I think that if you're talking pure pass rusher, which is what the Redskins need, I think Shane Ray would have been a better option here at 5. If you're talking about helping Robert Griffin III, then a receiver would have made a lot more sense. Vic Beasley definitely helped himself at the Combine, and I think his performance at the Combine single-handedly put him in a position to be selected at 5 to the Washington Redskins.
So we move on to number 6, the New York Football Jets. Both wide receivers still on the board here. I understand they have Brandon Marshall and Eric Decker and Jeremy Curley or whoever, but this could be a spot for a wide receiver to go here. You have to think Amari Cooper is the highest player on a lot of people's boards right now.
Indeed. Amari Cooper, Kevin White, don't sleep on Kevin White. He's another guy that, 1A, 1B with Amari Cooper to me in this draft. If you're talking wide receivers and being that no receiver has been taken yet, you've got to think that some teams are getting antsy to want to maybe come up. If you're the Jets, I don't think you can afford to take a receiver right here. You fixed the secondary. You fixed the wide receiver position. I feel like if you're the Jets, you need to get more pressure on the quarterback. And that the secondary being as good as it is, you really could use a guy that can get off the edges fast and get upfield and get pressure on the quarterback. And it can only enhance this defense that already has so many dominant pieces in place. So I think an outside linebacker would be the choice if you are the Jets. And with Todd Bowles as the coach, I think that is his mindset going into this pick.
And here comes the commissioner. We may have a trade here, actually.
There has been a trade. The San Francisco 49ers are now on the clock and have selected wide receiver Amari Cooper, Alabama.
Wow. So the San Francisco 49ers move up all the way to number 6 from pick number 15 and take wide receiver Amari Cooper. Wow. This is definitely a new regime here. I mean, they've traded up before for Eric Reed in the 2013 draft, but going from 15 to 6, very aggressive move. And from what I'm seeing, they've given up a second round pick, and a 4th round pick to make this move. Very aggressive move by the San Francisco 49ers, but I like it. Amari Cooper is the second player on my big board, and he's still available here at 6. If you can get a Pro Bowler anytime in the draft, go get him. And he could definitely help Colin Kaepernick, who's still a very erratic passer.
Bold is the name of the game in the National Football League. You've got to be willing to take some risk. As I always like to say, scared money don't make money. And so this was a big-time risky move for the 49ers, but they saw a player that they believed in. They saw an opportunity to go up and get him, and that's what they did. I'm more of a Kevin White guy myself, but I understand why Amari Cooper is going to be a good receiver in this league. The ceiling with him isn't as high as Kevin White, but the floor is not as low either. And so I understand it. And the 49ers definitely need help at receiver. I think that with Bolden getting up there in age, you go out and get Torrey Smith in free agency, but they could definitely use some help at wideout, and I think Amari Cooper will exactly deliver that for them in the upcoming season.
And the Chicago Bears wasted no time with this pick. Here comes the commissioner.
With the 7th pick in the 2015 NFL Draft, the Chicago Bears select Kevin White, wide receiver, West Virginia.
And there goes another wide receiver. Kevin White goes to Chicago. They traded Brandon Marshall earlier in the offseason. Now they replace him with Kevin White. Kevin White and Alshon Jeffrey will be a hell of a tandem for cornerbacks in the NFC North to cover twice a year. I like the pick. The Bears, they have to find a certain identity under John Fox. Are they going to be an offensive team, a defensive team? You know, he's a defensive guy, but they still have Cutler, who they would love to get rid of, and they can't. It's a very odd franchise. I would love to see where they're going to do this year. But what do you think about this pick?
I think new GM Ryan Pace, coming over from New Orleans, he's always been a part of a franchise and an operation with a high level of offensive efficiency. And that's what they're looking to recreate here in Chicago. You got Alshon Jeffrey on one side. You got Martellus Bennett at tight end. They had a lot of success with those guys because they're so big. You add another big receiver in Kevin White after trading away Brandon Marshall in the offseason. I think it works. Jay Cutler is, to me, the focal point of this. If he can't get them the football, then this doesn't work. But he's got all the targets you can ask for. Add in Matt Forte in the backfield, and this is an offense that is ready to go right now. John Fox will look to fix the other side of the football. Meanwhile, they get a receiver that will help them score points hopefully in the upcoming season.
And here come the Atlanta Falcons with their pick.
With the 8th selection in the 2015 NFL Draft, the Atlanta Falcons select Brandon Sheriff, offensive lineman, Iowa.
So the Falcons go offensive line 2 years in a row. They took Jake Matthews last year out of Texas A&M. Now they go with Brandon Sheriff out of Iowa. Protecting Matt Ryan, obviously a big certain focus for them. And I question, they did spend a lot of money on the defensive side of free agency. I would have liked for them to get an outside linebacker, though. Maybe they'll save that for the later rounds. But, hey, if you want to protect your investment, why not go offensive line?
This draft is one that is very deep at the outside linebacker position, edge rusher. Falcons are switching their defense, and they're doing a number of different things. They've got a new head coach in Dan Quinn coming over from Seattle. And so I would have thought the impetus would have been on getting a guy that can get to the quarterback. They were third worst in the league in sacks last season. They've been a team that has struggled to get to the quarterback annually. To me, that should have been the selection at 8. I understand that there's depth in this draft and you can get an edge pass rusher at another point in this draft. But when you're in the top 10, you're looking to get something elite. And I just don't know if Brandon Sheriff is what they needed to get at 8. We'll see. I can understand protecting Matt Ryan, however.
And it's a shame that Randy Gregory out of Nebraska had to get into trouble because this could have been a great spot for him. But here comes the commissioner to announce the 9th pick.
With the 9th selection in the 2015 NFL Draft, the New York Giants select Shane Ray, linebacker, Missouri.
Well, best player available is the New York Giants strategy. You can definitely see that here. Offensive line was a big focus, many thought going into this draft, but Shane Ray, definitely the top player on my board, probably on their board, and they took him here, and they could definitely use him. I wonder if they're going to sit him down, have him play defensive end, or have him be a 4-3 outside linebacker. He can do both, and maybe they'll make him do both within that defense. But I like this pick. I like where the Giants are thinking.
New York Giants taking a pass rusher. What's new? This is what they do. They make sure they're locked, stocked, and ready to go getting after the quarterback. When they've won in 2007, they could get after the quarterback. When they won in 2011, they could get after the quarterback. This is not new news. The Giants have to be able to get after the opposing team's quarterback in order for them to win. This pick helps them do exactly that.
Yeah, and I definitely think the Giants are a team to look out for in 2015 if they can get production by Shane Ray. You could definitely see them challenge for the NFC East. This is definitely a player to look out for, even in their 4-3 defense. The St. Louis Rams are currently on the clock. Where do you see them going?
This is an intriguing team here because they still need a number one receiver. And Devontae Parker is sitting right here on the board for them to take at number 10 if they so please. They could go offensive line. That's another issue. They drafted Greg Robinson last year. Jake Long didn't work out the way they wanted him to. They had to kick Robinson, which is what they drafted him to be anyway, a left tackle. Kicked him from guard to tackle. Now they need guard help. They could use a tackle on the right side. Roger Saffold, inside, outside. They could use a number of things here.
And here comes the commissioner to announce the 10th pick.
With the 10th pick in the 2015 NFL Draft, the St. Louis Rams select Eric Flowers, offensive lineman, Miami.
Wow, and to be honest with you, I don't really like this pick. I think Eric Flowers is kind of a raw prospect. It's kind of a projection with him. I would like to see them take Devontae Parker, as you said. I mean, they've been struggling trying to find this number one wide receiver for years, taking guys like Brian Quick and Tavon Austin and this guy and that guy. But you could have finally fixed it by taking Devontae Parker. But they went offensive line, which is understandable. They released Jake Long earlier in this offseason after they thought he could be their left tackle for years, was obviously he wasn't going to be able to do. But I'm not in love with this pick. What do you think?
I wholeheartedly agree. This is a situation where you get a new quarterback in here, trade for Nicholas Foles in the offseason. You feel really good about him. And I understand what they are trying to do here because Nicholas Foles is the type of quarterback that you have to protect for him to be successful. So I get why they made this selection, but you would love to give him some targets that can win on the outside to get the football to. They re-signed Kenny Britt, which is nice, but he's not a number one receiver in this league. I think when you get that number one guy, all the rest of the receivers fall into their proper slots. Right now, those guys are off-center because they don't have that chief receiver there. So I didn't really care for the pick too much, but I understand the thought process behind the selection of Eric Flowers at 10.
And maybe I'd like it more if they would have took the best offensive lineman on my board right now, and that's Andres Pete. But Eric Flowers, I guess he has the highest upside, and that's definitely true, but accessing that upside might be pretty difficult. But here comes the commissioner to announce the 11th overall pick.
With the 11th selection in the 2015 NFL Draft, the Minnesota Vikings select Jalen Collins, defensive back, LSU.
Wow. Does anyone want to say reach with me? This was not the highest corner on my board. It was definitely Trey Wayans. And beyond that, why not take Devontae Parker here? You have Teddy Bridgewater, former Louisville quarterback, whose favorite target was Devontae Parker out of Louisville. But they decided to bolster their cornerback position, which is a need, definitely a need for them. But they don't even take the best cornerback on the board. So, to me, this is a very, very questionable pick here by the Minnesota Vikings.
Questionable indeed. And then the news of him having failed drug tests, at LSU, multiple failed drug tests, it doesn't jive. It doesn't feel like the right selection here for the Vikings. And I, like you, have Trey Wayans higher on my board than Jalen Collins. I just feel like there were a number of different directions. If they wanted to go corner, they could have went in. And I like you, feel like, why not go Devontae Parker here? Again, you just talked about it. You just alluded to the fact that they have Teddy Bridgewater. He was at Louisville with Devontae Parker. They had a synergy there that you could not ignore. This pick makes absolutely no sense for me here at 11 for the Vikings.
Yeah, definitely questionable here. And now we start with the first of the Cleveland Browns' 2 picks. It'll be interesting to see where they go. They're not a team with needs that definitely you could say, that there's a best player available here for their specific needs, like quarterback, for example, or wide receiver, unless they really wanted to reach on a guy. So I'm interested where they go. Where do you see them going?
Why not take Devontae Parker here? You could obviously use a number one receiver. I know they went out and they got Brian Hartline. I know they went out and they got the receiver from Kansas City, Dwayne Bowe. I know you have some guys that you like, but to me, you got an opportunity to get a guy here that should have already been selected maybe 2 or 3 times over in Devontae Parker. I think the pick here should be Parker. You could go in a number of directions, though. They could use some tackle help as well.
And here comes the commissioner to announce the 12th overall pick.
With the 12th pick in the 2015 NFL Draft, the Cleveland Browns select.
Well, I definitely like this pick. I think Danny Shelton is actually right up there with Leonard Williams, but we're not in love with 3-4 nose tackles nowadays like we used to be, but he is an anchor on that defensive line. And people say he had a bad combine. I mean, I don't know what they expected him to go out there and run. He did exactly what I expected him to do. He is a force in the middle of the defense. He showed up at the 2015 Senior Bowl, dominated in practice, dominated in the game. When the game starts, he is a beast, and he loves the game of football. So if I have to have a zero tech gapping nose tackle. Give me Danny Shelton. And he could even fit in a 4-3 defensive tackle position too. But he doesn't look the way you want. But when the game starts, when the snap is snapped, or when the ball is snapped, he turns it on. I love this pick.
I absolutely agree with you. I think the Browns are actually getting an absolute steal here. Danny Shelton, to me, is a top 10 pick. They're getting him at 12 for all the reasons that you have basically alluded to. You know, his love for the game, his zest for the game of football, his ability to not be moved off the spot at the point of attack is innate. I think the reason why he's not a top 5 pick, the reason why he's not a top 10 pick is because he's not a 3-down player. Despite having 9.5 sacks a season ago at Washington, he's not a guy that will consistently get pressure on the quarterback. But for downs 1 and 2, if you want somebody to plug up the middle of your defense and stop the run, Danny Shelton is your man. And for a Cleveland Browns team that struggled significantly to stop the run a season ago, this is exactly what they needed to do.
Yeah, and definitely. And as I said before, I liked him up there with Leonard Williams. But here we go. We have the Saints' overall pick is now on the clock.
With the 13th selection in the 2015 NFL Draft, the New Orleans Saints select Trey Waynes, defensive back, Michigan State.
Well, finally, Trey Waynes gets off the board here. I did have him as my top corner, but I'm not in love with him exactly at the number 13 spot. I guess you could say he feels a need, but they did have Keenan Lewis. They did sign Brandon Browner, so he'll go and he'll compete for the nickelback spot, and maybe he'll end up beating Brandon Browner, who is an absolute penalty machine. I would have liked to see them gone outside linebacker. Bud Dupree is available here. Randy Gregory, if they're okay with his off-field issues. I thought those would be more appropriate. But Sean Payton is transforming this team into more of a defensive team, trying to get something out of Drew Brees' last years. And ultimately, though, this is a good pick.
I struggle with this one. You won't let Keenan Lewis go. And he somewhat said he wanted out, but he's from New Orleans, so, you know, you could see why he would want to stay. He's still there. You go out, you get Brandon Browner, as you talked about already. They drafted a kid out of Nebraska last year, big, tall kid, long, rangy corner.
Stanley Jean-Baptiste.
Yes. And so now you add Trey Waynes to the mix. I just don't understand. This team has other problems on it that they could have addressed here at 13. They traded away Ben Grubbs at the guard position. Why not take a guy like Lyle Collins here from LSU? Why not help bolster? Drew Brees has to be protected, especially in the interior of that offensive line. Devontae Parker sitting here on the board. You could have easily used the receiver here. You traded away Kenny Stills. I don't understand the logic here at 13 taking cornerback on the board if you're the Saints.
And, yeah, like I said, it's sort of questionable with the cornerbacks they already have. Maybe they really don't like Stanley Jean-Baptiste. But anyway, here comes the commissioner to announce the 14th overall pick.
With the 14th selection in the 2015 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins select Devontae Parker, wide receiver, Louisville.
Well, finally he comes off the board, and I'm already going to say this. Maybe some of you are shocked by this, but this is my second rated wide receiver on my big board. I love me some Devontae Parker. Didn't get the production you wanted this season because of injury, but when he was playing last year in 2014 and the year before that in 2013, when he was on the field, he was an absolute stud. Can go get the ball, has extreme explosiveness and burst off the line of scrimmage, and can go get the ball, consistent hands. I love me some Devontae Parker. I had him right behind Amari Cooper and above Kevin White. I think this is a great pick for the Miami Dolphins as Ryan Tannehill emerges into a franchise quarterback. Give him yet another weapon here. They'll put him alongside of Greg Jennings and Kenny Stills look out for the Miami Dolphins offense and defense in 2015. Wow, what a pick by the Miami Dolphins.
And don't forget Jarvis Landry either. They're starting to collect quite a few receivers in Miami, and I think this is exactly what they needed. They're talking with Tannehill now to work out a new contract and an extension there, and this is exactly what he needs, a running mate there, a guy that he can look out wide to and know that if all else fails, I can throw the football to you and you will bail me out. Devontae Parker is that type of wide receiver, and I agree with you. This guy is someone that I thought would come off the board way sooner than 14. The Dolphins are really getting a steal here in Devontae Parker, and he's going to help elevate this team to new heights. And with that offense, you got to be able to score in that division against the Patriots. He's going to help them do exactly that.
Yeah, definitely. Miami Dolphins to look out for. And speaking of the AFC East, the New York Jets, who traded back earlier in the draft, picked up an extra second and fourth round pick, are now on the clock. You have to think they're thinking pass rusher here, but we'll find out as the commissioner walks his way up on the stage to announce the 15th pick.
With the 15th pick in the 2015 NFL Draft, the New York Jets select Randy Gregory, linebacker, Nebraska.
So the fall of Randy Gregory stops here. I thought he was going to fall a little farther than this, but I guess the New York Jets are comfortable with this, and as long as Todd Bowles is able to keep his head straight, this could be a very good pick here for the New York Giants. They've been expecting Quentin Coples and Calvin Pace to do stuff for years. They haven't. Hopefully Randy Gregory can. I think he will, as long as he can keep his head straight. Marijuana use, it's becoming, a lot in the country, but not in the NFL. So you just got to put up the weed, my friend, and if he can, he'll be fine. This could be a very good pick here for the New York Jets.
I worry about this kid, and you've heard all the reports about the area scouts not being able to sign off on him, and being a selfish football player, him being an off-the-field handful. We've seen that now. You know that you're going to be tested at the combine, and yet you still find yourself in this quandary. I wonder about his off-the-field situation, and on the field, there's no question this guy is an athletic marvel. If he can keep his head screwed on straight, the Jets just got themselves a top 5 player at number 15 with that defense, with Sheldon Richardson and Muhammad Wilkerson and Revis and Cromartie on the outside. This team is shaping into one of the elite defenses in the league. You add a guy like Randy Gregory to the mix, this team could be lethal defensively. If he is able to keep his life in order, this kid could be a star at the next level.
Yeah, and definitely. I like the job the New York Jets and Todd Bowles are doing in this offseason. They got some weapons on offense in Brandon Marshall, and now they're building this defense. Now this is the quarterback. Can Geno Smith do what we want him to do? And I still can't believe last game of the season when you think, okay, Geno Smith is done, they're going to move on, has a perfect passer rating. And then gives you pause. Wait a minute, can this guy do something? We'll find out in 2015. Maybe they'll draft a quarterback later on in this draft. We'll see about that. But for now, they take Randy Gregory. We'll see how this works out. Here comes the commissioner to announce the 16th overall pick.
With the 16th selection in the 2015 NFL Draft, the Houston Texans select Eric Kendricks, linebacker, UCLA.
Wow, and this is a reach here for me. Eric Kendricks on my board isn't even the top inside linebacker. I like Bernard Rick McKinney, out of Mississippi State. But there's a need here. I guess they're sick of trusting Brian Cushing to stay healthy throughout the season. But wow, I would have liked to see them maybe trade down here if you could have, or maybe just hold off on the inside linebacker, because there's going to be plenty available in the second round in Stephon Anthony or Denzel Perryman. But no, they wanted to go ahead and fill this need. I think it was a reach, though.
I call 16 the proverbial no man lands pick every year. You're not good enough. to wait till the end of the first round to get value. You're not bad enough to be at the top portion of the draft to get someone elite. You're right in the middle. And it's unfortunate for the Texans because they just missed out on Devontae Parker, who came off the board 2 picks prior. He would have been a perfect fit. You lose Andre Johnson in the offseason. Would have loved to have replaced him with a guy that could come in and be a number one viable receiver out there. You look at this team and the way it's set up. They need a receiver, but at 16, I really don't like the options that are available to them here. If you're talking value, could they use some offensive line help? Maybe, but they desperately needed help at the linebacking position, especially inside. But at 16, wow, that's a bit of a reach. But I'm a big proponent of getting your guy when you feel like you need to get your guy. And I can assure you, Eric Kendricks would not have been around when the Texans selected in the second round.
And speaking of the Houston Texans, as we wait for the next pick here, I'm a little concerned about their direction in the offseason. The biggest position in the NFL is quarterback, and they feel comfortable going with a Ryan Mallett, Tom Savage, Brian Hoyer training camp. And that kind of spells a little disaster for me. We like to victimize Ryan Fitzpatrick a lot, but I think he played pretty well for the Houston Texans, and they're going to be getting worse quarterback play, at least to me, this year. And when you get worse quarterback play, that usually means you get less wins. We'll see what happens with the Houston Texans, but I remind you all, even with the great J.J. Watt in 2014, or 2013, it went 2-14. Why? Because the quarterback position stunk. And they're not too far removed from that. So I just caution everyone to remember that. But they did add some players on defense. And maybe that won't exactly be the case. I'm not saying they're going to be that bad. But Brian Hoyer, Ryan Mallett, Tom Savage, color me unimpressed. And with that said, here comes the commissioner to announce the 17th overall pick.
With the 17th selection in the 2015 NFL Draft, the San Diego Chargers select Cameron Erving, offensive lineman, Florida State.
Wow, so early goes Cameron Erving. I thought he was going to be a late first round, possibly second round pick. I guess the Chargers really liked his versatility. I mean, a couple years ago they drafted DJ Fluker in the first round with the 11th overall pick. Now they sit here, they take Cameron Erving. I mean, I like him. He's versatile, but I think this is a reach here. I think there are better offensive linemen that you could have found at this spot, but the Chargers get a versatile Cameron Erving. I guess versatility gets him this high.
He's a Swiss Army knife, no doubt about it. But, hey, what about Todd Gurley here? What about a running back? You get rid of your running back, Ryan Matthews, who was injury-plagued throughout his career in San Diego. He's now in Philadelphia. You've got a bunch of guys who can be third-down options. Look, Brandon Oliver was a nice story, and he's a solid back. He's not a bell cow. Why not get a guy that on first and second down can pound the rock for you? You can put Danny Woodhead in the game on third downs and do what it is you want to do. Why not get Phillip Rivers a running mate here in the backfield, someone that he can rely on to turn around and hand the football off to? Maybe you need to protect him. Maybe that's why they selected Cameron Erving, and I understand that. He's getting up there in age. He's never been much of a runner, so I understand the concept here, but I would have loved to have seen them. Again, I feel like you can get an offensive lineman in the second, in the third round. There's depth at that position, but running back, there's depth, but there's not elite level players like a Todd Gurley. The medical checks out.
I'm very shocked that Todd Gurley and Melvin Gordon both are still on the board, and the Chargers didn't take them, but offensive line is a big thing, and now we know for a fact that Tennessee Titans still have Marcus Mariota, and I'm not hearing much. The Chargers are going to retain Phillip Rivers, it looks like. They now want to protect him even more, fine. But I still wonder, there's still better offensive linemen here. Now, as you said, there's depth. So I don't understand this. Here comes the commissioner to announce the 18th overall pick.
In the 2015 NFL Draft, the Kansas City Chiefs select La'el Collins, offensive lineman, LSU.
Back-to-back offensive linemen, except this one is much better than the last, if you ask me. La'el Collins out of LSU. Offensive line has been an issue for the Kansas City Chiefs for a couple seasons now, so them trying to address the position makes absolute sense to me. Give Alex Smith every single weapon he needs.
So this is a big pick. Andy Reid loves offensive linemen, defensive linemen. He loves beef in the first round. And so he gets a guy here that you can plug and play day one, and he'll come in and he'll do some things for this offensive line. He's versatile. You can kick him inside the guard. You can play him at tackle if you like. I love this selection for the Kansas City Chiefs, and I think it's going to make their offensive line that much stronger.
And without warning, here comes the commissioner to announce the 19th.
In the 2015 NFL Draft, the Cleveland Browns select DJ Humphries, offensive lineman, Florida.
Three straight offensive linemen here, and now DJ Humphries out of Florida goes here. This is a reach to me. I had him as a second-round prospect on my big board, and here he goes at number 19 to the Cleveland Browns. They addressed their defensive line with their first round pick, and now they're addressing the offensive line. Wow, I really question this though. I think this is a reach. Andres Pete, my second rated tackle, still on the board. But I guess there's something NFL teams know that I don't. DJ Humphries goes to 19, though. That's surprising.
I like this pick. I like them getting beef. They helped the run defense earlier with Danny Shelton. Here's another smart selection along the offensive line. This guy is very athletic. He moves well for his size. And we talked about the zest and the love for the game that Danny Shelton has. This guy equal or matches that same level of intensity and love for the game. I think that he's going to come in and immediately upgrade their tackle position. They've struggled along that offensive line, and we know the problems that they have behind the center. You don't want to have any problems up front, especially with the mess that's going on at the quarterback position. If you can protect guys in this league, they will be somewhat successful. Getting a guy like DJ Humphries at 19 to me is a big step in the right direction for this Cleveland Browns organization.
Oh, well, we disagree there, but here comes the commissioner to announce the 20th overall
pick. In the 2015 NFL Draft, the Philadelphia Eagles select Brashad Perriman, wide receiver, Central Florida.
Well, Brashad Perriman goes here. His stock has been rising quite like his 40 time over the past couple months. I'm not a big fan. You know, I turn on the tape, and I see what people want to see. They want to see a fast kid, a kid that has a lot of potential, and that's true. Drops way too many passes for me. Not a concise route runner for me. But if you think you can coach him up, you're going to fall in love with this kid. You're going to think that you can fix this kid. And under Chip Kelly, I mean, they lost Jeremy Maclin in free agency. They needed to replace him. Yes, they had Jordan Matthews out of Vanderbilt anchored down. But still, they needed to bolster their wide receiver position. This does that. I'm just not a big fan of Brashad Perriman.
If you just went off of his tape, he's not the 20th selection in the draft. There's a lot of areas that he has to improve upon, but you get him in there and you mold this kid into what you want him to be. He's a lifer. His dad played in the league at a very high level, so he understands what it's going to take to be successful in this league. He does not play to that time speed that he blew everybody away with at his pro day, but in a straight line, he can pick him up and put him down. He's a guy that builds into that speed. Not the best route runner right now, but he can get better. His hands are questionable at times. He'll make a great catch and then turn around and drop the easiest pass in the world. And so there's some inconsistencies there, but I tell you what, if this kid works as hard at his craft as his dad did, he will end up being a great pro, and Chip Kelly loves big receivers, and he fits that mold.
And here comes the commissioner
With the
to announce the
21st
21st
selection in
overall
the
pick.
2015 NFL Draft, the Cincinnati Bengals select Alvin Dupree, linebacker, Kentucky.
Well, here we go. Alvin Bud Dupree. I mean, this is a guy I thought would go much earlier. He's been a riser throughout this draft process, but the Bengals find him here at 21. And the Bengals, they always end up picking at 21, by the way, which I find hilarious. And they always end up taking a corner. They finally go away from that mold, taking a pass rusher. Yes, you got Michael Johnson back in free agency, but for all we know, Tampa Bay gave him MRSA, and you're going to need to give him insurance. So here, Alvin Bud Dupree can play defensive end in that 4-3 system. Again, I don't know what's going to fix Andy Dalton, but for now, this is a good pick.
I'm not a Michael Johnson fan. I thought that he was fool's gold in free agency last year. Tampa Bay found that out the hard way. Now he's back in Cincinnati. You need to get pressure on the quarterback. Cincinnati struggled in that department mightily. We saw it in the postseason. They couldn't get to Andrew Luck. He carved them up. They went home. They have to get to the quarterback, and Alvin Dupree will help them do that. I think this is a guy that you can move around the field. He can do a number of things. He can drop into coverage. You can run him in on stunts. He can go up the field on the outside. This guy is a smart football player. I like what he brings to the table. I think he's going to help Cincinnati on the defensive side of football. I, like you, feel like Andy Dalton is a huge problem for them. However, maybe the answer is already on the roster. They just don't know it in A.J. McCarron. I'm not saying. I'm just saying.
Wow. Well, that's an interesting anecdote as we move on to the 22nd overall pick.
In the 2015 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Landon Collins, defensive back, Alabama.
Landon Collins has been a consistent faller throughout this draft process. If you open up a mock draft from December, you'll see him going number 5 to the Washington Redskins, and he's been going down ever since. He's a box safety. He's not great in coverage, and that's not necessarily what you want. But if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, that is what you want. Because that's kind of what you had. He's a poor man's Troy Polamalu. Troy Polamalu was much better in coverage. I mean, much more instinctual than this guy. But with the coaching there, who Dick LeBeau isn't there anymore, by the way, you hope that he can end up being even a shadow of Troy Polamalu. But there's a big hole in safety now that Polamalu's gone. They put Collins there. It's a nice fit. I like this pick.
Most NFL-ready safeties in a draft that is very low on NFL-ready safeties. So from the standpoint of the Pittsburgh Steelers, this pick just makes a lot of sense. Ike Taylor retires, so does Troy Polamalu. Your secondary has been reduced to next to nothing in the span of a month. You go in, you address one of those issues here with Landon Collins at the safety position. You hope to get, a corner maybe in the second or third round. You drafted a corner, Shaq Richardson last year out of Arizona. You hope that he can materialize into something. You hope William Gay continues to play good football like he did last year. You see what happens, but you needed to address the safety position. You did that with Landon Collins. I like the pick. I think it's a good fit for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, and if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, your offense is fine. It's time to rebuild this defense. The Lawrence Timmons, the Troy Polomalus, the James Harrisons of the world are gone. The Brett Kiesels, everyone, they're gone. It's time to rebuild this defense, and they continue to do that. They've been doing that over the last couple of drafts. Hasn't found much success yet, but eventually I think these guys will grow and mature. But here comes the commissioner to announce the 23rd overall pick. Where are the running backs?
NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Todd Gurley, running back, Georgia.
And as I say that, finally a running back comes off the board. I'm sure no one expected this. I did not expect this, but Todd Gurley, all the way down to the 23 overall pick. Jim Caldwell sitting there taking. I mean, we love to project defensive tackle at this spot, but Todd Gurley, best player on the board. Hell, a lot of teams I've heard have him as the best player on the board, period. But now, especially at 23, he definitely is. And he'll fit nicely with Matthew Stafford. Hey, two Georgia guys. Now, two different eras of Georgia in Matthew Stafford and Todd Gurley, but it's a nice connection nonetheless.
I strongly disagree with this pick. Now, to me, obviously the medical must have scared teams off because Todd Gurley is much better than the 23rd overall selection in the 2015 NFL Draft. That being said, the Lions could use a running back here, but to me, they have other issues on this football team, mainly right tackle. Ever since the departure of Gosher Charles to Indianapolis, they've struggled to fill that position. They could have easily filled that here with a guy like Andrus Peat and kept it moving. I felt like the offensive line needed to be the pick here, defensive line even maybe, but to go with a running back in the first round when you already have about 2 or 3 guys that are solid on your roster, I don't agree with this selection. I think this was a pick right here that they didn't have the luxury of making at 23, and they made it anyway. But they got themselves one hell of a football player, if I may say so myself, in Todd Gurley.
Here comes the commissioner to announce his 24th
with
overall
the
pick.
24th pick in the 2015 NFL Draft. There's been a trade. The Dallas Cowboys are now on the clock, and with the 24th selection in the 2015 NFL Draft, the Dallas Cowboys select Melvin Gordon, running back, Wisconsin.
Wow, so the two running backs go back-to-back. I was watching the 2015 NFL Draft Academy, and Melvin Gordon and Todd Gurley are well aware of each other's presence, and I think they had a little competition going on to see who would go first. Gurley goes first, but then right after that, Gordon goes right behind him. Either way, I think this is going to be two good running backs, and sitting here for the Dallas Cowboys at 27, they said, hey, we want one of these guys. We lost DeMarco Murray in free agency. Let's replace his productivity with Melvin Gordon. Now, I'm not sure they're going to get the exact same productivity, but there's no reason behind that offensive line. Melvin Gordon can't run for 1,200 yards rookie season. This is a hell of an offensive line he will be running behind. So if he has to be the starter, obviously, but if he plays, Melvin Gordon might want to pick him up in fantasy behind this Dallas
equation here.
Line.
Let's start with the Cardinals. What the hell are you? And you allow them to get their hands on Melvin Gordon? God help us all. Cowboys just got themselves a steal at 24.
Yeah, I wasn't even thinking about the Cardinals when I was talking, but yeah, this is a questionable. I mean, I guess they wanted more picks. I've never been in love with Andre Ellington, and I don't think I ever will. I think he's good at certain things, but I don't think you want him to be your number one running back. At least I don't. But I guess they do. And I mean, as you said, Ryan Lindley playing there for Arizona. I mean, they're in a very interesting state. I'm sure they'll compete this year in the NFC, but I'm not picking them to win the Super Bowl. I don't think anyone's picking them to win the Super Bowl, so at least pick someone that can transcend you from this quarterback to the next, because I'm not betting on Carson Palmer to win a Super Bowl or to compete much longer for the Arizona Cardinals. So a guy like Melvin Gordon could be a staple for your offense in transition, because we need to start thinking ahead. Transition at the quarterback position could be coming soon for the Arizona Cardinals, but they didn't think so. They traded back, and now with the 25th overall pick, the Carolina Panthers pick is in. We'll see what the commissioner has to say about this.
With the 25th pick in the 2015 NFL Draft, the Carolina Panthers select Andrus Peat, offensive lineman, Stanford.
Well, finally, Andrus Peat, my second-rated offensive tackle, comes off the board despite like 4 or 5 offensive linemen being taken before him. I mean, I like this guy a lot. I like everything about this guy. I mean, he was a staple at left tackle in Stanford. Now he's going to be playing right tackle, theoretically, for the Carolina Panthers. But hell, he could play left tackle. He could, 25th pick, you could have found your left tackle right here. And I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up being a left tackle down the road. I really like this pick for the Carolina Panthers. They need to fix this offense. I don't know if it's Cam Newton. I don't know if it's the pass protection. I don't know if it's the running backs. I don't know if it's wide receivers, but all those phases need to be improved, and this helps the offensive line. Hopefully they keep improving throughout this draft because there are issues on this offense.
What's stopping him from being a left tackle in Carolina? What, Byron Bell? You can speak to this. What, Michael Orr? He's definitely in place.
That is true.
To be their left tackle starting day one in Carolina, and this kind of falls in line with the way Dave Gettleman, their GM, likes to build a football team. He usually likes to build within the trenches and then fans out. And so this pick makes a lot of sense. And they got to protect Cam Newton. They need to be able to keep him upright. He was banged up last season, and he was broken into so many different pieces. And it was hard to watch at times him get up and grimace, because the offensive line wasn't protecting him, because wide receivers weren't winning one-on-one matchups. This is going to help that Carolina offense. They need more help, but this is a start. I like the pick here at 25.
And at 26, here comes the commissioner.
With the 26th selection in the 2015 NFL Draft, the Baltimore Ravens select Jalen Strong, wide receiver, Arizona State.
And this is why I respect Ozzie Newsome to death. Jalen Strong, to me, is the fourth best wide receiver in this draft and is Anquan Boldin 2.0. And who did Joe Flacco win the Super Bowl with? Anquan Boldin. He will be that for this team. And for some reason, it's actually inexplicable with Jalen Strong. For someone that ran a 4.45 at the Combine, showed he has speed, why can't he separate at the college level? That's my biggest thing. Maybe it's route running, maybe he needs to improve on that, getting out of his breaks. But if they can coach him up, he could definitely be Anquan Boldin 2.0. He's not going to absolutely run away from you, unless if it's just a straight line speed. But Jalen Strong, I like a lot. He is strong. Like Anquan Boldin, he will be a huge weapon for Joe Flacco down the road.
I think you answered your own question. The inability to separate is due to his lack of route running ability. To me, that's his biggest knock right now. And one of the things he has to improve upon is his ability to run routes. He did not run a lot of routes. His back shoulder fade was his best route at Arizona State, and he excelled at that, and he will excel at that at the next level. For me, with Jalen Strong, I want to see him be more consistent with his hands. You know, he did drop quite a few balls at Arizona State. I think the sky's the limit for this guy. I think where his presence will be felt right away with the Ravens team that struggled in the red zone is he's going to be a guy that can score touchdowns in the red zone, go up, high point the football, back shoulder fade. You name it, he can do it in the red zone. I think that's where his presence will be felt the most in his rookie season.
Yeah, but I definitely, at the end of the day, like this pick a lot, and I think he'll do big things for the Baltimore Ravens. Here comes the commissioner to announce the Arizona Cardinals pick that they traded back for earlier in this draft.
With the 27th selection in the 2015 NFL Draft, the Arizona Cardinals select Jordan Phillips, defensive lineman, Oklahoma.
So the Arizona Cardinals trade back to number 27 and take a guy who's a second-round pick, in Jordan Phillips. I'm not a big fan of this pick. Not a huge need at nose tackle for the Arizona Cardinals. They did lose Dan Williams. In free agency, but I thought they had some good options for him. But I guess they wanted to take Jordan Phillips here. It's fine. They need to fix some holes on their defense, but ultimately their problem for me is offense, and it is going to continue to be offense.
The pick makes sense. You lose Dan Williams in free agency. You get rid of Darnell Dockett in the offseason. You need beef up front. It makes a lot of sense. I'm just not a huge Jordan Phillips guy. I would have preferred to even have seen maybe even Eddie Goldman come off the board before him. Just to me, Jordan Phillips doesn't impact the game enough for me, but we'll see what happens with him in Arizona and if he's able to assimilate himself to the NFL game or not. I understand the pick, and they moved back. They picked up picks in the process and still got the guy that they probably would have selected at 24 anyhow.
Yeah, so we'll see how this ends up playing out for them. Here comes the commissioner, though, to announce the 28th overall pick.
With the 28th selection in the 2015 NFL Draft, the Denver Broncos select Owambe Odigizua, defensive end, UCLA.
Well, print the jerseys. Owambe Odigizua out of UCLA. The Denver Broncos moving to a 3-4 defense under Gary Kubiak. They were playing some 3-4 bases in 2014, don't get me wrong, but this is going to be more of their thing, definitely. And I like this pick. I mean, they want some guys to get after the passer. DeMarcus Ware and Von Miller are there, but maybe adding another pass rusher. You know the phrase, you can never have too many pass rushers. But I would have liked to seen them get offensive line. Yeah, Peyton Manning was on his ass a little bit too much, and you protect him. I mean, he's your guy. If you want to win a Super Bowl in this Peyton Manning era, you need to protect him. I thought they should have won offensive line here. But Owambe Odigizua can't get after the quarterback. I just will see how he's going to get on the field.
I absolutely love this pick. I love Odigizua. His tape was among my favorite to watch this offseason, and he reminded me a lot of Jeremiah Tauchu, another guy that was selected last year in the draft by the Chargers. Their tapes were similar, and I enjoyed watching that tape. I enjoyed watching this tape, but I, like you, James, felt like you're in win now mode in Denver, and if you're going to win now, you have to protect Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning was hit way too often last year. He ran out of gas. They had musical chairs along that offensive line. Guys got injured. You were moving centers to tackle and then tackles to guard. It was a mess. You should have taken an offensive lineman here just to make sure that something like that would not happen this year. Instead, they elect to go defense. And I love the pick, but I thought that if you're winning now, the pick should have been offensive line.
Yeah, and to the commentators of CBS that will be calling these games, get out your pronunciation sheets on this one. The 29th overall pick is now available, and here comes the commissioner.
With the 29th pick in the 2015 NFL Draft, the Indianapolis Colts select Malcolm Brown, defensive lineman, Texas.
And Malcolm Brown falls down the draft board. I, like many of you, probably had him going in the teens. Now you see him going all the way down to 29. I mean, if I had to guess, maybe it's because a lot of teams just didn't see where he would fit in their defense. I think he's a 3-4 defensive end, the 4-3 defensive tackle, and that position really hasn't been addressed in this draft. So a lot of offensive linemen have been addressed in this draft, or running backs lately, or wide receivers, and now finally Malcolm Brown goes off the board. But this is a great pick for the Indianapolis Colts. To be able to pick a player of his value and to fill a need on their defense, I love this pick by the Indianapolis Colts.
This is great value here. I mean, they're not shopping at Walmart, but this is excellent. Great value here. And I think, like yourself, he's a 3-4-5 technique. He's a 4-3-3 technique. I thought he could have come off the board as soon as 9. I mean, with the Giants, to see him fall all the way to 29 to Indianapolis is just absolute steal for this Colts team. And I think they could definitely use a 5 technique in their defense. And I think he's going to help them be more stout at the point of attack. I thought they were a team that was kind of soft up front, both on the offensive and defensive line. So he's going to help them be a little bit more physical. And I think you're right. He was just a victim of just not having a fit with the teams that were selecting ahead of the Indianapolis Colts, but doesn't make him any less of a player. And this is a good get for the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah, absolutely. They haven't done a great job of drafting these defensive players like Bjorn Werner in 2013 and other players of his ilk, but this is a pick that I'm sure will work out for them. Now, here come the Green Bay Packers, and here comes the commissioner to announce the 30th overall pick.
With the 30th selection in the 2015 NFL Draft, the Green Bay Packers select Bernardrick McKinney, linebacker, Mississippi State.
Well, this is my guy. I like this guy a lot, and I think the Green Bay Packers have done a good job here. They have a need at inside linebacker. I thought Eric Kendricks was going to go here, but he went much earlier, number 16. They take Bernardrick McKinney, and I think he'll be a great fit and a great pick for them as they continue to help out their defense. It's such a funny thing with these franchise quarterbacks. It's like when you get one, especially the best quarterback in the NFL, you never seem to have a very good defense to go along with him. But this is a good piece to help them get to that point. And if he can contribute early, and not struggle quite as much as Clinton Dix did, although I'm sure Clinton Dix will be much better this season, and you showed traits of that at the end of the 2014 season. The Green Bay Packers are going to have a nice nucleus on defense and could definitely once again compete for a Super Bowl in 2015.
I, like you, thought that the pick here would be Eric Kendricks, but like you said, he was long gone at 16 to the Texans. So they took the next best thing here with McKinney. And I think with what they're doing at the linebacker position, they need to get faster. And he's going to come in, bring a little bit of athleticism, also be a downhill thumper. He's a tackling machine, is McKinney. And you add him to the mix with Sam Barrington, who they uncovered last year, and Clay Matthews, and you like the way this is starting to fill out for the Packers at the linebacker positions. And this is a team that, if they can somehow, some way find a defensive identity to go with that offense, this is a team that will be in the running in the NFC each year, year in, year out, as one of the teams you think has the legitimate shot at winning the Super Bowl.
And here comes the commissioner to announce the 31st overall pick. We're almost done.
With the 31st selection in the 2015 NFL Draft, the New Orleans Saints select Dorial Green-Beckham, wide receiver, Oklahoma.
Well, Lou, you were banging the table for a wide receiver when they didn't take one at 13. Now they took one at 31. And I like this pick. You have to keep him out of trouble, though. But this is a guy with so much potential. What is he, 6'5", 230, 240? I mean, that right there tells you what kind of frame we're working with. And when he was playing for Missouri in 2013, he was really good. If you can tap that potential, I won't be surprised if he ends up being a top 10 wide receiver in the NFL.
I love the pick. I didn't think he would even be here at 31. And the talent is undeniable. The off the field issues. The thing that is so funny with him and this selection is that we haven't seen this guy play in almost 2 years. Any organized football. You talk to anybody at Oklahoma, they'll tell you he was the best player on the team when he was at practice, but we haven't seen him play any organized football in about 2 years because of the suspension and then having to sit out after the transfer. So right now, you're just going off of what you saw 2 years ago, essentially, with this kid. And that's the thing that you really don't know, but the talent is undeniable. The Saints get a steal here at the back end of the first round, and he's going to fit right in New Orleans. If he's the guy that we saw shades of 2 years ago at Missouri, look out, NFC South.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and that guy was a top 5 talent guy. So if we see this guy, then Drew Brees is going to have a lot of fun with this weapon. And finally, the 32nd overall pick. Here comes the commissioner.
With the 32nd pick in the 2015 NFL Draft, the New England Patriots select Eric Armstead, defensive lineman, Oregon.
Well, the Patriots do what they do. They sit there at 32, they wait for someone to fall, and they pick him right up. Eric Armstead out of Oregon, defensive tackle in their 4-3. He's going to be a good pick for them. Shades maybe even Willie McGinnis. I mean, not exactly the same player, but in terms of size, absolutely. And Eric Armstead's even bigger. And they got rid of Vince Wilfork. This is not the same guy. Eric Armstead is much more athletic than Vince Wilfork is, but it's a different mold type of player than the New York England Patriots are used to. But I definitely like the pick here.
This is a good pick if you're going off of projected talent and him getting better as a player. If you're going strictly off the tape, this is a terrible pick. If you're going off of production, this is a terrible pick. But the Patriots are always one step ahead of everyone else. Bill Belichick is usually playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. And while this guy didn't have the production at Oregon, while this guy wasn't as dominant and didn't have the impact game in and game out you would expect from someone his size, the upside here is enormous, and that is what Bill Belichick is banking on, that this kid will turn into the next star that no one saw coming. And therein lies the problem, because if this kid is what we think he can be, the Patriots just got away with highway robbery at the end of the first round.
And not only he, but imagine if last year's first-round pick for them, Dominic Easley,
absolutely
ends up being as good as he could be. The Patriots really could have really magnified the talent of their defensive line here, and they'll forget about Vince Wilfork in a hurry. So, looking back on the first round, winners, losers, who do you think really won the first round, Lou?
Hard to say who wins, who loses so early. I love what the Dolphins were able to do, getting Devontae Parker at 14, not having to trade up to get him. He falls into their lap. You get a number one receiver for your franchise quarterback who you feel really good about in Ryan Tannehill. And I think that is going to help their football team tremendously. I also really like what the Cleveland Browns were able to accomplish, getting beef up front on both sides of the football. They were terrible at stopping the run last year. You get Danny Shelton, to me, the best run stuffer in this draft. You also follow that up by getting a guy like DJ Humphries at 19 to help solidify that offensive line. I thought they did a wonderful job of helping their football team in other areas, not named the quarterback position.
The winners for me, speaking of the quarterbacks, hey, two teams, find their franchise quarterbacks at the top of the draft. We'll see where that goes, and, they may be winners today, but they may be losers 3 years from now, 4 years from now. But for now, I'm sure they love their selections. The 49ers, I liked their aggressive move up to the top 10, taking the best wide receiver in the NFL draft to me, and Amari Cooper. He could be a consistent weapon for Colin Kaepernick and help his development. I like the fact that the New York Giants went best player available, taking Shane Ray out of Missouri. Now you have Shane Ray, Jason Pierre-Paul on that defensive line. Theoretically, and they could get after the quarterback, or maybe he's a 4-3 outside linebacker for them. I'll be interested to see where they put him. You spoke on the Ryan Tannehill, adding Devontae Parker to that offense. This is a guy, Ryan Tannehill, that had 27 touchdowns and 12 interceptions last year, and that will improve with a guy like Devontae Parker and Jarvis Landry and Kenny Stills and Greg Jennings out there. Wow, Miami Dolphins, look out for them. And the running backs, you did not like the Lions taking Todd Gurley. I disagree. I think he was the best player available on their board. I think you stick to your board, and I think you get a big weapon there in Todd Gurley, and Dallas Cowboys moving up to draft Melvin Gordon. I like that. Losers, however, I did not like the Vikings taking Jalen Collins, cornerback out of LSU. I thought that was not even the highest corner on my board, and yet they took him all the way at number 11, and I'm very disappointed because the Minnesota Vikings have done a good job building their defense. They drafted Anthony Barr last year. They drafted Harrison Smith a couple of years ago, but now this is a guy I question whether or not he's going to be a good player for them in the long run. I don't understand this run on offensive linemen in the middle of the draft as the San Diego Chargers took Cameron Irving out of Florida State. And the Browns, you like them taking DJ Humphries. I disagreed. But, maybe they'll target quarterback in the second or third round, and it'll make more sense to me. But until then, I don't get it. But those are my losers. Any losers for you?
The Texans reaching for Eric Kendricks sticks out like a sore thumb for me. I did not agree with them going. They needed help inside linebacker. I understand the rationale behind the pick, but to actually do what they did and go ahead and snag him at 16, probably couldn't get out of the pick. So you got to do what you got to do. They did that. I just don't agree with it at 16. I, like you, don't really love the Minnesota Vikings selection of Jalen Collins, where you have a situation where there's a receiver in Devontae Parker that can change the game for your franchise, and you add him and reconnect him with Teddy Bridgewater, who he played with at Louisville. Even if you decide that cornerback is the more pressing need, Trey Wayans is sitting right there. No corners have been taken in the draft to this point, and you decide that Jalen Collins is the guy. So, again, to each its own. If that's the highest rated corner on your board and you feel like that's the guy you need to take, you take him. But again, I don't agree with that selection. Eagles taking Perriman at 20. Do I hate this pick? No. Do I love it? No, I don't. Do I think he was a better option than Jalen Strong? That's debatable. But I understand what Chip Kelly was doing here. But if you're asking me what the Eagles should have done here at 20, you're going to take a receiver and you're going to roll the dice on the guy. Why not take Dorial Green-Beckham? Chip Kelly likes him big. He likes him fast. To me, you don't get any bigger and faster than Dorial Green-Beckham. Thought that might have been the selection there at 20. I guess the off-the-field issues is what scared Chip Kelly away there. But to me, I didn't really love the Lions selection of Todd Gurley, but I cannot argue with this guy going here. The Cardinals, to me, trading back from 24 was a huge mistake. To me, that's the biggest loser of this first round. You cannot trade away an opportunity to get a face of the franchise running back in Melvin Gordon. You struggled at that position mightily last year and have struggled at that position, have had one of the worst running games for the last 3 or 4 years running now. Last year, you saw Andre Ellington start to develop and start to help the running game out. He gets injured, and then you had nothing. And so to see Melvin Gordon be there on the board at 24, and for you to not only not take him, but then to trade away that selection to a team that no one in the NFC wants this guy to end up on their team in the Dallas Cowboys with that offensive line, to me, it's a double whammy. The Cardinals, to me, are the biggest loser of the first round of the draft.
Well, thank you, everyone, who stayed and listened to this whole mock draft simulation. I, James Carter TV, and Lou have had a lot of fun doing this, and we might even hook up again after the real draft to give our thoughts on that, maybe even grade that. I don't know. We'll come up with something. But it's a lot of fun. Every year we do this, it's a lot of fun. And for rounds 2 and 3 of this mock draft simulation, go down in the description box for the full mock draft simulation. But this is where we sign off. Until next time, James Carter TV, I'm out. Peace.